The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep hum. Hyun-woo walked into the enormous room, his black diplomatic uniform looking plain compared to the colorful robes and strange body coverings of the alien representatives. The chamber was built like an ancient theater, with curved rows of seats rising high into the air. Each section held a different alien species, and all their eyes were on him. Hyun-woo had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years now. He had seen this same look many times before. The aliens thought humans were weak, simple creatures who had barely learned to travel between stars. They were wrong, but they would learn that soon enough. The Vorthak representatives sat in the front row. They looked like giant lizards standing on 2 legs with green scales that shimmered under the bright lights. Their forked tongues flicked out as they whispered to each other, making wet hissing sounds. Behind them sat the ethereals, beings made of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. They did not speak with words but sent their thoughts directly into other minds. "The human representative may speak," announced the council speaker, a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms. Hyun-woo stepped forward to the center of the chamber. His footsteps echoed in the quiet room. He placed his hands on the speaking podium and looked up at the hundreds of alien faces staring down at him. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's sound system. "I come before you today with an important message from the people of Earth." Several aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. The Vorthak Prime Minister, a massive creature named Keshatar, leaned forward in his seat. His yellow eyes gleamed with amusement. Hyun-woo continued without stopping. "For 30 years, since humans first made contact with your civilizations, we have been careful to limit ourselves. We have held back our true military power. We have kept our industrial capabilities hidden. We have not shown you what we are really able to do." Now the chamber was completely quiet. Even the ethereals stopped their glowing pulses. "We did this because we wanted peace," Hyun-woo said. "We believed that showing restraint would help build trust between our species. We hoped that by being careful and peaceful, we could avoid the wars that have torn apart this galaxy for thousands of years." Keshatar stood up from his seat. His massive form cast a long shadow across the chamber floor. "Human," he said, his voice a deep growl. "Are you threatening this council?" "I'm giving you a warning," Hyun-woo replied calmly. "We have been patient. We have been peaceful. But if pushed too far, if our people are attacked or threatened beyond our ability to accept, we will no longer hold back. We will show you what humans are truly capable of." The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens jumped to their feet, shouting and hissing and making strange sounds. The ethereal's lights flashed angry red colors. Several smaller species huddled together in fear. Keshatar's laughter boomed over all the other sounds. Soft mammals playing with metal toys, he roared. "You think your little ships and simple weapons frighten us? The Vorthak Empire has conquered 100 worlds. We have destroyed species more advanced than yours." The ethereal collective's main representative, a tall crystal being, sent its thoughts into every mind in the chamber. The message was clear: amusement at humanity's foolish pride. The thought voice was cold and mocking. Other aliens began to speak. The insectoid hive mind buzzed about human arrogance. The gaseous nebula wanderers created patterns in their containment, suits that meant contempt. Even the usually quiet stone singers from the heavy gravity worlds made low rumbling sounds of disbelief. Hyun-woo waited for the noise to die down. When it finally did, he spoke again. "You have made your positions clear. I hope for all our sakes that you never give us reason to prove ours." He turned and walked toward the exit. Behind him, the aliens continued to laugh and mock. Keshatar called out, "Run back to your little planet, human. Tell your people that the galaxy belongs to the strong." The massive doors closed behind Hyun-woo with a final boom. 3 light years away on Earth, General Taimin watched the broadcast from his office deep underground. The room was filled with screens showing data that no alien had ever seen. Numbers that would have shocked the Galactic Council. Military strength that had been hidden for decades. "They don't believe us," said Commander Sujin, his aide. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who had seen more battles than most generals twice her age. "Would you?" Taimin asked. He touched a control on his desk, and one of the screens showed what the aliens thought they knew about human military power. A few hundred ships, simple fusion drives, basic energy weapons. It was laughable compared to what Earth really had. "Sir, the Deep Forges report they can increase production by 300% within 6 hours of receiving authorization," Sujin said, reading from her tablet. Taemin nodded. The deep forges were humanity's greatest secret. Massive construction facilities hidden in ocean trenches and underground caverns on every human world. They could build ships faster than any alien civilization could believe possible. And the Shadow Fleet? He asked, standing by. All captains report ready for immediate deployment. Travel time to any point in the galaxy, less than 4 hours. The Shadow Fleet was Earth's real military. Ships that used technology so advanced that most humans didn't fully understand it themselves. They had been reverse engineering alien artifacts for centuries, improving on designs that were already beyond anything the current galactic civilizations possessed. Taemin stood up and walked to the window. It showed a view of the surface where normal humans went about their daily lives. They knew nothing of the weapons that protected them, the secret bases, the true extent of human power. How long do you think we have before they test us? He asked. Sujin checked her tablet again. Intelligence suggests the Kethmaran Empire is already planning something. They see humans as easy targets, rich colonies, weak defenses. Then they'll learn the truth soon enough. Taemin turned back to his desk and activated a secure communication line. This is General Taemin. Begin quiet preparations for Prometheus Protocol. Authorization level, Presidential standby. The reply came immediately. Understood, General. All Deep Forge commanders acknowledge. Shadow Fleet captains are briefing their crews. Taemin looked back at the screen showing Hyunwoo's speech to the council. The aliens were still laughing. Still certain that humans were weak and harmless, they had been warned. Soon, they would learn that humanity's greatest strength had always been knowing when not to use their power. But that time was coming to an end. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every known species packed the seats and the air buzzed with dozens of different languages. Fear was universal, and it showed on every face, whether flesh, crystal, or energy. Admiral Su Young stood at the speaking podium where Ambassador Hyunwoo had delivered his warning months before. Behind her, massive holographic displays showed images that made the assembled aliens shift nervously in their seats. 3 days ago, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. The Kethmoran Empire attacked 4 human colonies. They killed over 100,000 civilians. They broadcast across the galaxy that humans were weak and would serve as an example to other species. The displays showed the aftermath of New Sol Colony, bodies in the streets, buildings reduced to rubble, the horror that had started this war. Today, the Kethmaran invasion fleets no longer exist, Admiral Su Young continued. They were not defeated. They were erased. In 4 hours and 17 minutes, murmurs filled the chamber. The Vorthak delegation hissed among themselves. Several smaller species huddled together for comfort. You want to know how this was possible? Admiral Su Young asked. Very well. Let me show you what humans have been hiding. The holographic displays changed. Now they showed Earth as it really was, not the simple world the aliens had believed in, but a fortress bristling with defenses. The deep forges rose like metal mountains from the oceans. Space around the planet was filled with structures that had been invisible to alien sensors. Every human world has similar defenses, Admiral Su Young explained. We have been building them for 30 years, hiding them with technology your sensors cannot detect. In the ethereal section, crystals flickered with confused light patterns. Their thought voices crackled with disbelief. Impossible. We would have seen. Admiral Su Young smiled coldly. You saw what we wanted you to see. Our stealth technology is based on principles your civilizations have not discovered. We can hide entire fleets in empty space. The next display showed the Shadow Fleet in action. Ships appearing from folded space, weapons that bent reality itself, battles won in minutes against forces that should have taken days to defeat. Our ships do not use the fusion drives you have observed, she continued. They fold space-time, allowing travel across the galaxy in hours instead of weeks. Our weapons can manipulate gravity, create miniature black holes, and tear holes in reality itself. Prime Minister Keshatar of the Vorthak Empire stood up, his massive form trembling with rage. You lie, he roared. No species possesses such technology. Don't we? Admiral Su Young replied. She activated another display. This one showed production figures from the deep forges, numbers that made the aliens gasp in shock. In the past 3 days, we have built over 400 warships. Our manufacturing capacity exceeds that of your entire empire, Keshtar. And that's just Earth. We have similar facilities on 47 worlds. The Vortak Prime Minister sat down heavily, his yellow eyes wide with fear. But technology is not our greatest strength, Admiral Su Young said. Our greatest strength is something you never suspected. We are not who you think we are. The chamber fell silent. Even the ethereals stopped their light flickering. Humans are not native to Earth. We are the descendants of the precursors, the species that built the ruins you find on dead worlds throughout the galaxy. We have been awakening our genetic memories and rebuilding our ancestors' technology for centuries. The silence stretched for long moments. Then the ethereal collective's primary representative sent a thought message to every mind in the chamber, the ancient builders. They have returned. Panic erupted. Smaller species began fleeing toward the exits. Others demanded immediate military action. The insectoid hive mind buzzed with alarm signals that hurt the ears of everyone nearby. Admiral Su Young waited for quiet, then continued. We tried to warn you. Ambassador Hyun-woo stood in this chamber and told you we were holding back. You laughed. You called us weak mammals playing with toys. She gestured to the displays. These are our toys. The deep forges that can outproduce your entire civilizations. The shadow fleet that can cross the galaxy faster than your fastest ships can cross a star system. Weapons that can cause suns to go nova. That last statement caused fresh panic. Several alien delegations began urgent communications with their homeworlds. But, Admiral Su Young said, her voice cutting through the chaos, we are not here to threaten you. We are here to make the same offer we made before. Coexistence, peace, mutual respect. On the disease-ravaged world of Theseus 7, Captain Wu Jin of the human exploration vessel New Hope was proving Admiral Su Young's words. His ship had arrived unannounced in the system, appearing from folded space near the quarantine zone. The planet had been dying for over a century. A plague had wiped out 90% of the population, and the survivors lived in sealed cities afraid to venture outside. The Galactic Council had declared the world lost. Wu Jin's medical teams worked in the infected zones, protected by suits that made them immune to the deadly disease. They carried devices that looked simple but contained nanotechnology beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Treatment is complete in Sector 7, reported Dr. Hana, the mission's chief medical officer. The nanites have neutralized all traces of the plague organism. Around them, Thessian survivors watched in amazement as their dead world began to heal. Plants that had withered decades ago started growing again. Water ran clear for the first time in generations. Why? Asked Elder Thessamar, leader of the largest surviving city. Why help us? We have nothing to offer in return. Captain Wu Jin removed his helmet, breathing the newly clean air. Because it's the right thing to do, he said simply. We have the power to help, so we do. The rescue of Theseus 7 was broadcast across the galaxy, but it did nothing to calm the growing panic. If anything, it made things worse. Humans had just solved a problem that had stumped galactic civilization for a century, and they did it in 3 days. In the crystal towers of the ethereal homeworld, the collective's senior minds held emergency conferences. Their shared consciousness buzzed with fear and calculation. They could destroy us all, one thought voice projected. But they saved Theseus 7, another replied. Perhaps they speak truth about wanting peace, or perhaps they want us to lower our guard. The debate raged through the crystal networks. But one fact remained clear. Humanity had revealed power beyond anything the galaxy had imagined. On the Kethmoran homeworld, Emperor Thrakagul paced in his throne room like a caged predator. His military advisors cowered before him, afraid to speak. How many ships do we have left? He demanded. Perhaps 2,000, Your Majesty, stammered Admiral Gorthel. The rest were destroyed at the human colonies. 2,000 ships, Thrakagul repeated, against an enemy that can build 400 ships in 3 days. He turned to face his advisors. Send word to every Kethmoran fleet in the galaxy. We are gathering the largest armada in our history. 10,000 ships, 20,000 if necessary. Your Majesty, Admiral Gorthel said carefully, the humans destroyed 3 of our fleets without taking a single casualty. Perhaps we should consider negotiation. Thrakagul's roar shook the palace walls. Never. The Kethmoran Empire does not bow to anyone. We will destroy every human world, starting with Earth itself. But even as he spoke, reports were coming in from across Kethmoran space. Human ships had been spotted near their outer colonies, not attacking, just watching, waiting. The Shadow Fleet was taking positions. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, Admiral Su Young delivered her final message. We offered peace once before and you rejected it. We offered coexistence and you chose war. Now you have seen what we are capable of. She paused, looking at the frightened faces surrounding her. The choice is still yours. Work with us to build a better galaxy, where no species dominates others through force. Or continue on the path of conflict and learn what our ancestors learned, that war with humanity ends only one way. The displays behind her showed one final image, Earth as it truly was, surrounded by defenses that could protect it from anything the galaxy could throw at it. But more than that, it showed humanity's true strength. Not just weapons and ships, but the will to use them if pushed too far. The aliens had been warned. Now they knew the warning was real. The question was, would they listen this time? The first sign that something had changed came from Earth's oceans. Around the planet, massive structures began rising from the deep water. They had been there for decades, hidden on the ocean floor, waiting for this moment. The deep forges broke the surface like mechanical mountains. Each one was 10 miles across and reached far down into the Earth's crust. Steam poured from their surfaces as they came online after years of silence. Inside, production lines that could build starships began to move. On the bridge of his command ship, Colonel Byung-ho watched Earth grow smaller behind him. His vessel, the Silent Strike, was part of humanity's Shadow Fleet. For 30 years, these ships had stayed hidden in secret bases throughout human space. Now they were finally going to war. Time to New Busan? He asked his navigation officer. 4 hours, 17 minutes, sir. Byung-ho nodded. In the old days, before humanity revealed its secrets, the journey would have taken 3 weeks. The aliens thought human ships used simple fusion drives that crawled slowly between stars. They were wrong. The Silent Strike and her sister ships moved by folding space around themselves. It was technology that humanity had found in ancient ruins buried deep in Earth's ocean trenches. The original builders had been gone for millions of years, but their knowledge lived on in the machines they left behind. Sir, we're receiving transmissions from New Busan, reported the communications officer. Colony defense forces are still fighting but barely holding. Tell them help is coming, Byung-ho replied. And prepare all weapon systems. At New Busan Colony, Commander Ye-jin crouched behind the ruins of what used to be the main hospital. Her defense force was down to less than 100 soldiers. The Kethmaran army had surrounded the city and was slowly closing in. How long can we hold? Asked Sergeant Dae-soo, reloading his rifle with the last of his ammunition. Maybe another hour, Ye-jin replied. She tried to sound confident, but they both knew the truth. The colony was lost. The best they could do was buy time for civilians to hide. A Kethmoran war machine rounded the corner, its 6 legs crushing abandoned vehicles as it approached. The creature was 30 feet tall with weapons mounted on its back and sides. Ye-jin had seen these things destroy entire buildings with single shots. She was about to order her people to fall back again when something impossible happened. The air above the war machine began to twist and bend. Reality itself seemed to fold, and suddenly a human warship appeared out of nothing. The Silent Strike materialized directly above the Kethmaran forces. It was unlike any human ship the aliens had seen before. Instead of the blocky, crude vessels humanity had shown the galaxy, this was a sleek predator that seemed to absorb light. Colonel Byung-ho's voice came over the colony's emergency frequencies. New Busan Defense Forces, this is Shadow Fleet Command. You are ordered to take cover immediately. Ye-jin and her soldiers dove for shelter just as the human ship opened fire. The weapons were nothing like the simple energy beams the aliens expected. Instead, the Silent Strike created small tears in space itself. These holes in reality appeared around the Kethmaran war machines and swallowed them whole. One moment the alien forces were advancing, the next they simply vanished. What just happened? Dae-soo whispered. Before Ye-jin could answer, more ships began appearing. Dozens of them, all emerging from folded space with the precision of a military drill. The Shadow Fleet had arrived in force. Back on Earth, Dr. Minho stood before a camera that would broadcast his words across the galaxy. He was humanity's leading expert on alien biology. But more importantly, he knew humanity's greatest secret. People of the galaxy, he began. For too long you have believed that humans are a young species, new to space travel and weak in comparison to your ancient civilizations. This is a lie we allowed you to believe. The broadcast reached every inhabited world in the galaxy within minutes. On alien homeworlds and space stations aboard merchant ships, billions of beings stopped what they were doing to listen. Humans are not from Earth, Dr. Minho continued. We are the descendants of a species that ruled this galaxy millions of years ago. We left behind ruins and technology on thousands of worlds, including the planet we now call home. On the bridge of a Vorthak warship, Admiral Kreshigal hissed in disbelief. Impossible. We would have found evidence. But even as he spoke, his science officers were checking their databases, reports of ancient ruins on dead worlds, technology that seemed too advanced for the civilizations that supposedly built it, artifacts that had never been properly explained. Dr. Minho's voice continued. For centuries, we have been recovering our ancestral memories and rebuilding our technology. We chose to hide our true capabilities because we hoped to avoid the wars that destroyed our ancestors. But you have forced our hand. In the deep forges around Earth, production had reached levels that would have seemed impossible to alien observers. Every 3 hours, a new warship rolled off the construction lines. Each one was equipped with weapons that could destroy moons and engines that could cross the galaxy in days. At New Busan, the battle was over before the Kethmoran forces understood what had happened. Their invasion fleet, which had seemed unstoppable hours before, was now scattered wreckage floating in space. Not a single alien ship had escaped to report what they had witnessed. Commander Yejin stood in the colony's main square, watching human engineering teams repair the damage with tools that seemed like magic. Buildings rose from their foundations as if time itself was moving backward. Sir, she said to Colonel Byung-ho, how long have we had this technology? Since before you were born, he replied. The question isn't how long we've had it. The question is why we waited so long to use it. Around the galaxy, alien governments were receiving reports that made no sense. Human colonies that should have fallen in ours were not only surviving but winning. Enemy fleets were disappearing without explanation. And human ships were appearing in places they couldn't possibly reach so quickly. On the ethereal homeworld, the collective's senior minds gathered in their crystal chambers. Their thought voices crackled with fear and confusion. The humans have been deceiving us, one projected. Impossible, another replied. We would have detected such advanced technology, would we? If they have been hiding it for decades? If they learned stealth from their ancestors? The question spread through the collective's shared consciousness like ripples in water. For the first time in their history, the ethereals faced an unknown that frightened them. In his palace on the Kethmoran homeworld, Emperor Thrakagul received the reports from his military commanders. 3 invasion fleets destroyed, no survivors, no explanation except impossible claims about human ships that appeared from nowhere. Find out what happened, he commanded. Send our best scouts. I want to know what weapons the humans are really using. But it was too late for caution. The Shadow Fleet was already moving toward Kethmoran space. And they were not coming to negotiate on Earth. President Daewon watched the tactical displays that showed human forces advancing across the galaxy. For 31 years, he had hoped this day would never come. Now that it had, he felt only grim satisfaction. Status report, he requested. Admiral Eun-jung consulted her screens. All attacked colonies have been liberated. Enemy forces eliminated with 0 human casualties. Deep forges are at maximum production. Shadow Fleet units are moving toward enemy territories. An alien reaction? Panic, sir. Every major civilization is trying to understand what just happened. Our intelligence networks report emergency sessions on dozens of worlds. President Daewon nodded. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity really was. After decades of pretending to be weak, the truth was finally coming out. Send a message to the Galactic Council, he ordered. Tell them we're ready to renegotiate our relationship with the galaxy. And this time they'll listen. The largest military force in galactic history gathered at the edge of the Sol system. Over 10,000 Kethmoran warships hung in space like a dark cloud, blotting out the stars. Each ship was a kilometer long, bristling with weapons that could crack moons. Emperor Thrakgul commanded the armada from his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He had spent 3 months gathering every available ship from across the Kethmoran Empire. This fleet represented the military might of 1,000 conquered worlds. Report, he commanded from his throne on the bridge. Admiral Gorthul checked his displays nervously. All fleet elements in position, Your Majesty. 10,300 ships ready for battle. Long-range sensors show minimal human defenses around Earth. Thrakgul smiled. showing rows of sharp teeth. Through the viewports, he could see the blue-green planet that had dared to challenge his empire. Around it floated perhaps 50 human ships, the same crude vessels the galaxy had seen for decades. 50 ships against 10,000, he mused. The humans are either supremely confident or supremely foolish. What the Emperor didn't know was that Fleet Admiral Chang Min was watching the Kethmaran Armada from the bridge of the Prometheus Unbound, humanity's most advanced warship. The vessel hung invisible in folded space, its sensors tracking every enemy ship. "Status report," Chang Min requested calmly. Captain So Jin, his operations officer, consulted her displays. "All Shadow Fleet units are in position. Deep Space Reserve standing by in dimensional fold. Defense platforms online and ready. And the special project? Engineer So Young reports the Sol defense grid is fully operational and awaiting your command, sir." Chang Min nodded. For 30 years, humanity had been preparing for this day. Every simulation, every war game, every strategic planning session had led to this moment. The galaxy was about to see what humans could really do. "Open a channel to the Kethmoran flagship," he ordered. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Emperor Thrakagul received the transmission with amusement. "Put it on screen," he commanded. Chang Min's image appeared, showing a calm human in a simple uniform. "Emperor Thrakagul," he said formally. "I am Fleet Admiral Chang Min of the Human Defense Force. You are entering Earth's solar system with hostile intent. I offer you one chance to withdraw peacefully." Thrakagul's laughter boomed across the bridge. "Withdraw? Human, you face the greatest military force ever assembled. Your pathetic 50 ships cannot hope to—" "50 ships?" Chang Min interrupted. "Who said anything about 50 ships?" He made a gesture, and space around Earth suddenly filled with vessels. Not hundreds, but hundreds of thousands. The Shadow Fleet materialized from dimensional folds, appearing in perfect formation around the human homeworld. On the Kethmaran flagship, alarm klaxons began wailing. Admiral Gorthel stared at his displays in shock. "Your Majesty, the numbers. They're impossible." Where empty space had existed moments before, human warships now hung like a silver constellation. Each one was sleek and deadly, designed with technology that made Kethmoran ships look primitive by comparison. "How many?" Thrakagul demanded. Over 200,000 ships, Your Majesty," Gorthel stammered. "They appeared from nowhere." Chang Min's voice came over the communication channel again. "You wanted to see human military capability, Emperor. Congratulations. You're the first alien to see our actual fleet strength." Thrakagul's confidence began to crack. 200,000 ships was impossible. No civilization could build so many vessels. Yet his sensors confirmed what his eyes were seeing. "Impossible," he roared. "No species has such numbers." "We've had 30 years to prepare," Chang Min replied. "Our deep forges have been building ships since the day we made first contact with the galaxy. We told you we were holding back. Did you think we were joking?" The Emperor looked at his tactical displays. Even with 10,000 ships, he was outnumbered 20 to 1. But Kethmoran pride would not allow retreat. "Attack," he commanded. "Destroy them all!" The Kethmoran fleet opened fire, launching millions of energy beams and missiles toward the human formation. It was enough firepower to sterilize a dozen worlds. None of it reached its target. The human fleet didn't even return fire. Instead, they did something that made every alien commander question his understanding of physics. They began manipulating gravity itself. Miniature black holes appeared in space, swallowing Kethmoran weapons whole. Gravitational fields twisted and bent, redirecting enemy fire back at the ships that launched it. Reality itself seemed to fold around the human vessels, making them untouchable. "What's happening?" Thrakagul demanded as he watched his fleet's weapons turned against themselves. Admiral Gorthel could only stare at the readings. "Sir, they're using gravitational manipulation on a massive scale. They're creating artificial black holes bending spacetime. A Kethmoran dreadnought simply vanished as a micro-black hole consumed it entirely. Another ship's weapons overloaded when its own missiles were redirected back at it by twisted gravity fields." Chang Min's voice remained calm. "This is your final warning, Emperor. Withdraw now or face the consequences." "Never," Thrakagul screamed. "All ships, full assault!" "Ram them if you have to." The Kethmoran fleet charged forward, desperate to close the distance and engage in direct combat. They never made it. The human ships began a demonstration that would be remembered for generations. Without firing conventional weapons, they systematically dismantled the largest military force in galactic history. Ships found themselves caught in gravity wells that crushed them like tin cans. Others were trapped in folded space, existing in multiple dimensions at once until their structure collapsed. Some simply disappeared as reality bent around them. "Status report," Changmin requested, as if this were a routine training exercise. "Enemy force reduced by 60% in the first 10 minutes, Captain Sojin reported. No damage to our vessels. Minimal energy expenditure." Around them, the destruction continued. Kethmaran's ships fled in all directions, but there was nowhere to go. The human fleet had surrounded them completely, and their gravity weapons could reach anywhere in the system. On the Eternal Dominion, chaos reigned. Half the crew was dead, killed when a gravity wave crushed part of the ship. The rest worked frantically to keep life support running. "Your Majesty," Admiral Gorthel gasped, blood running down his face. "We have to surrender. They're destroying us without even trying." But the real shock was yet to come. "Engineer So Young," Changmin said calmly, "activate the Sol defense grid." "Acknowledged, Admiral. Initiating emergent sequence." The sun began to change. Structures emerged from the star's surface, revealing themselves for the first time in decades. They were massive beyond comprehension, each one larger than most space stations. They formed a network around the sun, connected by streams of pure energy. "Impossible," Thrakagul whispered, staring at the display. "The Sol defense grid," Changmin explained, his voice broadcasting to every surviving Kethmaran ship. "A Dyson swarm built inside our sun over the past 20 years. We've been harvesting stellar energy on a scale your civilization cannot imagine." The structures began to glow brighter, drawing power directly from the star itself. Energy readings spiked beyond anything the Kethmaran sensors could measure. "This represents approximately 1% of our actual defensive capability," Changmin continued. "We have similar installations around every star in human space." Emperor Thrakagul looked around his ruined bridge. His mighty armada was reduced to scattered wreckage. His empire's greatest military achievement had been destroyed in 30 minutes without the humans even using their main weapons. What are you?" he asked weakly. "We are what we've always been," Changmin replied. "Human. We tried to tell you that we were different. We tried to warn you that we were holding back. You chose not to listen." The surviving Kethmaran ships, less than a tenth of the original force, huddled together in space like frightened animals. Their weapons were useless, their numbers meaningless against technology they couldn't understand. "Return to your empire, Emperor," Changmin said. "Tell them what you've seen here. Tell them that humanity's patience has limits. Tell them that we prefer peace, but we are very, very good at war." A corridor opened in the human formation, allowing the Kethmaran survivors to flee. They departed quickly, carrying news that would shake the galaxy to its foundations. As the last alien ship disappeared into hyperspace, Changmin allowed himself a small smile. The demonstration was complete. The galaxy now knew what humanity was capable of when they stopped holding back. "Stand down from combat alert," he ordered. "Begin recovery operations for any survivors." Around Earth, the greatest fleet ever assembled began to fade back into dimensional folds, becoming invisible once again. But the message had been sent. Humanity was no longer hiding. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, the galaxy was a different place. The Galactic Council no longer met in the gleaming towers of Axiom Prime. Instead, they gathered on Earth, in a new building that rose from the Pacific Ocean like a crystal mountain. Ambassador Hyunwoo stood at the head of the council chamber, but his title had changed. He was now Secretary General of the Reformed Galactic Alliance, and the aliens who once laughed at his warnings now hung on his every word. "The reconstruction of former Kethmaran territories continues ahead of schedule," he reported to the assembled representatives. 47 worlds have been liberated from slavery. Their populations are being relocated to safe areas while we rebuild their civilizations. In the Vorthax section, Prime Minister Keshtar listened with the same respect he once reserved for his own emperor. The proud lizard-like being had learned humility after watching the most powerful military force in galactic history, destroyed in 30 minutes. "What of the Kethmaran leadership?" asked the ethereal collective's representative, its crystal form pulsing with nervous light patterns. "Emperor Thrakgul died 3 weeks ago," Hyunwoo replied calmly. "Natural causes. His empire has been dissolved. The former Kethmoran worlds are now independent, protected by human peacekeeping forces until they can defend themselves. On the former slave world of Kethmora 7, Commander Jae-hyun walked through the ruins of what had once been a forced labor camp. His engineering teams were working around the clock to transform the place into a proper city, using technology that seemed like magic to the freed prisoners. "How are the medical treatments progressing?" he asked Dr. Yuna, the mission's chief physician. "Better than expected," she replied, consulting her tablet. "The neural control implants are responding well to our nanite therapy. Most of the former slaves should regain full mental function within another month. Around them, beings from dozens of species worked together to rebuild their world. They had been slaves for generations, bred to serve Kethmoran masters. Now they were learning what freedom meant. "Commander," called out Theklar, a former slave who now served as the world's provisional governor. "The humans have asked for nothing in return for their help." "Why?" Jae-hyun paused in his inspection of a new hospital. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said. "We have the power to help, so we help. That's what makes us human." It was the same answer Captain Woo Jin had given on Thessia 7, and it was becoming humanity's signature response across the galaxy. Back on Earth, in the underground laboratories where humanity's greatest secrets were studied, Dr. Hee Jin led a team of scientists from 17 different species. They were working on projects that would benefit the entire galaxy. "The cancer treatment nanites are ready for distribution," she announced to her team. "We can begin shipping them to medical centers throughout Alliance space." The ethereal researcher working beside her pulsed with gratitude patterns. "My people have struggled with this disease for centuries. Your nanites will save millions of lives." "Our nanites," Dr. Hyjin corrected gently. "We're all working together now." The Galactic Science Consortium was one of humanity's most successful innovations. By sharing carefully selected technologies with other species, they were raising the standard of living across the galaxy. Not weapons or military technology, but medical advances, environmental restoration tools, and defensive systems. The aliens were learning that humans kept their word. They had promised to share beneficial technologies, and they did. They had also promised that their most dangerous capabilities would remain under strict human control. And that promise was kept as well. In the Sol system, the massive Dyson swarm around the sun continued to harvest stellar energy on an unimaginable scale. Only humans were allowed near the installation, and the power it generated was used solely for peaceful purposes, terraforming dead worlds, powering relief efforts, and maintaining the defensive systems that kept the galaxy safe. President Daewon, now in his second term, stood before representatives of every known species to deliver his annual address to the galaxy. The chamber was packed and his words were broadcast to every inhabited world. 6 months ago, he began, we stood at the edge of a galactic war that could have consumed us all. The Kethmoran Empire believed that strength meant the ability to conquer and enslave others. They were wrong. He gestured to the mixed crowd of humans and aliens working together in the chamber. True strength is the ability to protect those who cannot protect themselves. It is the wisdom to use power responsibly. It is the courage to stand against oppression, even when it would be easier to look away. The audience listened in complete silence. These beings had once dismissed humans as weak mammals playing with primitive toys. Now they understood that humanity's greatest strength had always been knowing when not to use their power. We held back our true capabilities for 31 years because we believed in the possibility of a better galaxy. President Daewon continued. That belief has not changed. We still want coexistence. We still want peace. But we have learned that sometimes to preserve peace one must be prepared for war. In the deep space monitoring stations hidden throughout the galaxy, human sensors continued to watch and listen. Young-soo, now a senior diplomat, reviewed the latest reports from the galaxy's edge. Sir, his aide reported, we're receiving more signals from beyond the rim. The pattern analysis suggests at least 12 distinct human colonies responding to our broadcasts. Young-soo nodded. The revelation that Earth's humans were not alone had shaken the galaxy even more than the display of military power. Somewhere out there, other branches of humanity had survived and developed their own technologies, their own civilizations. How long before we make contact? He asked. First contact team is scheduled to reach the nearest signal source in 3 weeks, his aide replied. The Exploration Council is very excited about what they might find. The galaxy watched nervously as humanity prepared to reunite with their lost colonies. If Earth's humans had developed such advanced technology while hiding among aliens, what might human civilizations that had developed in isolation be capable of? The answer would reshape the galaxy once again. In his office overlooking the Pacific, President Daewon met with his closest advisors. The holographic displays showed a map of known space, with human territories marked in blue and allied worlds in green. There was much more green than there had been 6 months ago. Status report, he requested. Admiral Eun-jung consulted her screens. All major powers have accepted the new alliance structure. Trade is up 40% across alliance space. Piracy is down to historic lows. Only 3 minor conflicts requiring our intervention this month. And our defensive capabilities? Fully operational and expanding. The deep forges are now producing ships for our allies as well as ourselves. Every alliance world has basic defensive systems based on our technology. President Daewon walked to the window and looked out at the ocean where the deep forges continued their work. Steam rose from their surfaces as they built the ships that kept the galaxy safe. We tried to warn them, he said quietly. We told them we were holding back. They thought we were bluffing. Do you regret it, sir? Asked Admiral Eun-jung. Revealing our true capabilities? President Daewon considered the question for a long moment. No, he said finally. We gave them 31 years to learn to coexist peacefully. They chose war instead. Sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to demonstrate that the cost of war is too high to pay. He turned back to his advisors. Besides, they're learning. The galaxy is more peaceful now than it's been in centuries. Species that were enemies for millennia are working together. Former slaves are free. The strong protect the weak instead of preying on them. And when we make contact with the other human colonies? Admiral Eun-jung asked. Then we'll have even more strength to protect the peace we've built, President Daewon replied. Whatever our cousins among the stars have become, whatever technologies they've developed, we'll use that knowledge to make the galaxy an even better place. Outside, the sun was setting over Earth's ocean. The deep forges continued their work, building tomorrow's peace with today's technology. In space stations and colonies throughout the galaxy, humans and aliens worked side by side, creating a future that neither could have built alone. The age of human restraint was over. The age of human responsibility had begun, and the galaxy was learning that sometimes the greatest strength was knowing how to use power wisely. 3 months after the council meeting, the warning sirens began screaming across New Sol Colony on Kepler 442b. Captain Jin Ho ran through the streets as buildings exploded around him. The sky was filled with massive dark ships that blocked out the sun. The Kethmoran Empire had come. Jin Ho had commanded the colony defense force for 2 years. His small fleet of patrol ships was designed to handle pirates and smugglers, not a full military invasion. Above him, the Kethmoran dreadnoughts opened fire with weapons that turned entire city blocks into glass. All units, fall back to defensive positions, he shouted into his radio. But there was no reply. The communication towers were already destroyed. In the colony's engineering center, Narration worked frantically to keep the power grid running. She was Jin Ho's younger sister, and like him, she had never expected to face something like this. The building shook as another energy blast hit nearby. Narration, we need to evacuate. Her assistant called out. Not yet, she replied, her fingers flying over the control panels. I can keep the emergency broadcasts running for another few minutes. Earth needs to know what's happening. The main screen showed the horror outside. Kethmoran soldiers, 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor, marched through the streets. They carried weapons that turned living beings into ash. Behind them came their war machines, giant metal creatures that walked on 6 legs and fired explosive shells. Narration activated the emergency transmitter. This is New Sol Colony to Earth Command, she spoke into the microphone. We are under attack by Kethmoran forces. Estimate 50,000 civilians killed in the first wave. Colony defenses have failed. They're using weapons we've never seen before. Another explosion, much closer this time. The lights flickered. The aliens are broadcasting on all frequencies, Narration continued. They say this is just the beginning. 3 more human colonies are under attack. They want to make an example of us. Her voice stayed calm even as the building began to collapse around her. Tell Earth. We held the line as long as we could. The transmission cut out as the engineering center was destroyed. On Earth, in the underground command center, President Day-Wan watched the final broadcast from New Seoul. The room was silent except for the quiet hum of computers. Around the table sat the most powerful people in human space: generals, admirals, intelligence chiefs, and scientists. Casualties? He asked quietly. Admiral Eun-jung answered without looking up from her reports. New Seoul, 53,000 confirmed dead, 20,000 missing. New Busan colony. Under siege, communication cut off 6 hours ago. Harmony Station evacuating, but Kethmoran ships are moving to intercept. Eden Prime. Fighting continues, but their defenses won't last another day. President Day-Wan was 62 years old. He had led humanity through peaceful expansion into space, careful diplomacy with alien civilizations, and the slow buildup of hidden defenses that he hoped would never be needed. Now that hope was gone, they knew, he said. The Kethmorans chose human colonies specifically because they think we're weak. Sir, said General Taemin, our intelligence shows this isn't just raiding. Emperor Thrakagul himself approved this operation. They plan to enslave any human survivors and broadcast the conquest across the galaxy. They want to prove that humans are easy prey. Around the table, faces were grim. These people knew secrets that would terrify the aliens who thought humans were harmless. For 31 years, humanity had hidden its true strength. They had built weapons in secret, developed technologies beyond anything the galaxy had seen, and prepared for the day when someone would push too far. That day had come. President Day-Wan stood up slowly. How long since we activated the emergency protocols? Never, sir, replied Admiral Eun-jung. The Prometheus protocol has been on standby since first contact, but we've never used it. And our hidden assets? Fully operational. The deep forges can begin maximum production immediately. The Shadow Fleet is ready for deployment. All secret bases report green status. President Day-Wan walked to the wall display that showed human space. Red markers indicated the colonies under attack. Blue markers showed the locations that the aliens knew about. But there were other markers, hidden ones, that represented humanity's real strength. They want to make an example of us, he said. Very well. We'll make an example too, but not the one they expect. He turned to face the council. I hereby authorize the Prometheus Protocol. Remove all limitations on military production. Deploy the Shadow Fleet with full authorization to use advanced weapon systems. Begin emergence of deep forge facilities on all worlds. Around the table, people began activating secure communication systems. Orders that had been prepared for decades were finally being sent. Sir, said Dr. Minho, the xenobiology expert, once we reveal our capabilities, there's no going back. The galaxy will know what we've been hiding. Good, President Day-Wan replied. Let them know. We tried peace. We tried restraint. We gave them 31 years to learn to coexist. They chose war instead. Admiral Eun-jung was already coordinating with fleet commanders. Sir, first Shadow Fleet units can be deployed within the hour. Estimated travel time to New Busan, 6 hours. To Eden Prime, 4 hours. Do it. And Admiral? President Day-Wan's voice was cold. No survivors among the Kethmoran forces. They wanted to make an example. We'll make sure the example is complete. In space around Earth, things began to change. What looked like empty areas suddenly showed signs of massive structures. The deep forges hidden for decades began to rise from ocean floors and underground caverns. Each one was the size of a city and could build a warship in hours instead of months. On Luna, the moon base that aliens thought was a simple research station revealed its true nature. Massive doors opened in the lunar surface and sleek ships emerged. These were not the crude fusion-powered vessels that humanity had shown to the galaxy. These ships moved by folding space itself, and their weapons could crack planets. In the command center, President Day-Wan watched reports flood in from across human space. The hidden bases were coming online. The secret weapons were being armed. Humanity's real military was finally being revealed. How long, he asked, before the galaxy realizes what we actually are? The first battles will tell us, Admiral Eun-jung replied. When our ships arrive at the attacked colonies and engage the Kethmoran forces, and when they see how fast we got there and what our weapons can do, then they'll understand that humans have been lying about everything for 31 years. President Day-Wan nodded. Outside, the first Shadow Fleet ships were already entering hyperspace, moving faster than any alien technology could track. In a few hours, the Kethmoran Empire would learn what humanity really was. The age of human restraint was over.